in, but she's going like super slow, giving it just enough time to like jump on her car. And she said she could hear it like dancing on top of her car.
Oh,
And she starts driving real fast, and then eventually it just stops.
stop.
Cary Thomas Cody.
And this is our show, Suspend Disbelief, where each week we'll dive into a new topic, discussing various spooky subject matter, such as Native American lore, cryptozoology, what might be considered conspiracies, and just in general things that keep us up at night.
Yeah, the dark mysteries of the universe, for sure.
Yeah. So put on your brown pants and join us as we suspend disbelief.
Yes. Welcome. So we're moving a little further away from just short films, and we're doing a little YouTube show / podcast or whatever you want to call it, where we just kinda,
/ multimedia experience.
Yeah, multimedia experience. Yep. And yeah, we just want to tell some stories as Native Americans, as Indians. We just have a deep root in storytelling. It's the most primitive form of entertainment, and it's just one of our favorite things to do is tell each other spooky things and learn about spooky stuff. And so we want to share that with everybody. And we're pretty excited. And so this episode is all about Indian ghost stories. And like Orrin said, I hope you wear your brown pants because we're gonna try to give you some nightmares and also teach you about our culture in different ways and kind of explain why we believe certain things in the way that they are. And also
we're scared of certain things like owls and whistling at night, where you might think it's like, oh, why, but like we're like, no, that's terrifying.
As natives, like, we're super spiritual and also superstitious people as well. But there are a lot of reasons to that. A lot of reasons that we, it's hard to explain. But also, like, even things that we don't really understand, we're learning more about our cultures all the time, diving into that type of thing. And we want to share with all of that stuff, and as well as just telling stories. We want to just talk about other spooky things that are going on in the world, but also, I don't know, provide new information, new findings on like Bigfoot or, I don't know, skinwalkers
or UAPs.
Yeah, UAPs. That's a big one. We love those, and stuff like that. So welcome. Thanks for joining us. And we're going to be hanging out, and I'm going to tell Orrin some ghost stories.
Yeah, and I'm going to be frightened by these ghost stories.
Yes, and so will you. All right, so this first story is a personal story of mine. And I'm going to have to do a little backstory on this one because it'll kind of set up the story here. So in 2019, me and my dad, my brothers, my uncles, we all went to this powwow called the Kiowa Clan, and we like to dance every year. It's in the 4th of July weekend. We just did it this past weekend, and it gets real hot, and we do it to honor our people, to dance for our ancestors. It's a really big deal. It's a lot of fun. It's also very hot. It's very hard work. And in 2019, we did exactly that. We went and danced for 3 days straight, and we had a rough experience. So after we got back from the powwow, it was either the night or the second night after I got back, and I had this really bad sleep paralysis fit. Have you ever had sleep paralysis, Orrin?
Yes, it's frightening. It's terrifying.
What was your experience like?
My experience was I was asleep and I woke up, like eyes just like shot open, and I wanted to scream and I couldn't. So I just remember like making like, and like not able to scream and like just being like still. It was like the weirdest experience.
Yeah.
I never saw anything because I know when people have like sleep paralysis, they see like figures or dark, shadowy, humanoid shapes. I never saw any of that.
Well, consider yourself lucky. I've had sleep paralysis a handful of times in my life, and you kind of grow to accept it, but also you kind of get better at it, because those first couple times that you have sleep paralysis, you kind of you stress out so bad, you start panicking, and then you panic, you make it worse, you start to see and hear more things as you get more and more scared, and you can't call out for help or anything like that because nothing comes out. You can't move. All you can do is open your eyes, and you're just crying for help. You're praying, you're calling out for Jesus, you're doing whatever just to try to wake up. And I got really good at it because first thing I know is like, okay, I'm having sleep paralysis, so don't open your eyes, because a lot of times when you open your eyes, that's when you start seeing things. And then you start from there. You start like wiggling your toe.
Wiggle your big toe.
Yeah, wiggle your big toe. And from there, like you slowly start like working up your body, and where you feel like you're awake. And but sometimes you just go back to sleep, and you kind of forget that you even had it. But this experience was right after the powwow in 2019. We got back, and again, I'd had sleep paralysis multiple times in my life, and I thought that I was getting better at it. And I remember sleeping with my back against like the door, and my wife Sarah was on this end, and I like had my arm around her, and had sleep paralysis, and it's probably about 5 or 6 in the morning, so it was like a little bit of sunlight up, and I hear like the front door open, and that's when I realized I couldn't move. And after that, I heard like footsteps, not just footsteps, but like somebody was wearing cowboy boots in my house, and we had wood floors. And so just every step just echoed throughout the house, and it was slow, daunting steps, which is just a new experience for me, because I've never like heard anything when I had sleep paralysis. So this is a whole new experience. But I was like, okay, so just don't open your eyes, you won't experience anything. But no, this time, whatever it was, ghost, demon, whatever you believe, was like, oh, you're not gonna open your eyes, I'll scare you a different way. So I hear these footsteps, and I just hear like a slow, all throughout my house, until it gets closer and closer to my bedroom. And I remember hearing the door open, and that's when I'm freaking out the most, trying to just like wake up, and just like praying and doing whatever to like, wake up. And then all of a sudden, this spirit or whatever it is just disappears, and I can like feel like a sense of like peace just flow over my body, which is very strange.
And that's when you wet the bed.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I peed the whole time. So that year in 2019, we had a very close family friend who passed away a couple of months before the powwow. And in Native culture, I can't speak for all tribes, but in our tribe, the Kiowas, and a lot of other tribes that I know of, if a family member dies or a loved one, then you have to cut your hair, and you have to take a break from dancing at powwows for at least a year to symbolize healing and growth and mourning for the whole period of mourning. And technically she wasn't blood, and so we never really talked about it, but we ended up dancing anyway. And that year, the powwow, I had the worst back pain of my life. My regalia started falling apart. Literally started falling apart as I was dancing, and I was like, this can't be a good sign. And I was just mad that I was there. I was like, why are we doing this? And so after the second piece of regalia fell apart and there were beads all over the powwow ground, I was like, okay, I'm done for this trip. I'm done for the weekend. and I just put all of my broken regalia in a box, and I put it in my laundry room on my washing machine, and I just left it there. And that night when that happened, I went out, I guess the next morning I went out to our laundry room, and like my regalia was kind of like thrown around the room. Very strange.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I know, it was
no,
real freaky. I
no.
don't know. It was very strange. But to make it even more strange, when that presence stepped into my room, it felt like I could hear, like physically hear, like my dad's voice.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were teenagers, he would wake us up around like 6 a.m, and me and my brothers would pray for our family, and he would always end the prayers in the same way, and he would end them by saying this verse from Joshua that was, I think it said something along the lines of, let others serve who they may serve, but for me and my house we will serve the Lord. Mm-hmm. And I audibly heard his voice in my room when that spirit stepped into my room, like his prayers somehow like protected us.
Yeah.
It was very strange. And then that's when I felt that sense of peace just like kind of flow through my body. And then that spirit was gone. And I remember texting my dad that day. I was like, hey, were you praying around this time? And he wasn't. Yeah. So I was like, okay, so that would have been too weird if that was the case.
Too coincidental.
Yeah, that would have been, too coincidental.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know. Like, that makes me think, like, I don't know, like, what if his prayers and stuff like that all those years ago, still protected us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very strange. Very strange that all of those things happened, that my regalia, like my eagle fan, my clothes and stuff like that were just like tossed around the room, and that door wasn't locked, so somebody could have broken in there and like not stolen anything but just messed everything up. But only my regalia, or maybe a cat or a raccoon or something like that. I don't know. It's completely possible.
Also, good, not to discredit anything, but like you said, like you heard that prayer every morning, so like maybe like in the back of your mind, that's like a calming trigger thing.
Yeah, you're exactly
so
right.
Like,
maybe it was in me all along.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so maybe like in that moment, your subconscious like just like triggered that, and you're like felt better immediately.
It's completely possible. But yeah, I don't know. It was so eerie, and I didn't really tell a whole lot of people. But it was, for me, in my opinion, just the way that I felt, it was 100% a paranormal experience, and that it wasn't just nothing. The timing of it all, like right after the powwow, after our family friend died.
Like it's all too coincidental.
Yeah, all the back pain, all of my regalia falling apart, the sleep paralysis happening, and then the regalia being thrown around. Yeah. Like all of it was just, I don't know. But we shouldn't have danced that year. And I told my brothers and my dad that we shouldn't have danced that year. Yeah. It was a mistake. And because we should have respected our family friend and not danced out of mourning, because we were still mourning. She was very important to us, even though she wasn't blood related. So, yeah, that's my paranormal ghost experience.
Yeah, it's pretty spooky.
And I don't know. Sleep paralysis sucks, man. I hope that I never have to deal with it again, but I probably will. It's just kind of how it goes.
I've never. Okay, so kind of tangentially related to that, I've never experienced like a shadow person or like seen anything like that. But my sister has a story like when she was a kid, when like my grandma's house, and like she like kind of lives in the middle of nowhere and like whatever, but she has like this long hallway. And my sister remembers seeing like a person at the end of the hallway, and like just like sitting on a desk, and they have like a wide brim hat and they got red eyes, and she remembers like seeing like a shadow person. And I remember looking this up recently. Yeah, that image of like a wide brim hat person, shadow person, red eyes. That's a common thing people witness or see.
That's so freaky, dude.
That is freaky. Like,
yeah, don't they call him like the Hat Man or something
like that? Yeah. Like that is a common thing among like, I think either sleep paralysis or like shadow person like events. That
kind of looks like that neighborhood watch guy.
Yeah,
it's on the side. Maybe that's him. Maybe he's just maybe he's just watching the neighborhood as a spirit.
Yeah.
Dang, that's wild.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the first time I had sleep paralysis, I definitely saw shadows in my room, and that story is too long to tell. But I remember freaking out, and I saw the shadows in my room, and they like walked up to my bed, and then I closed my eyes, and then like in my head, I was in hell. And so like I saw like their demon faces standing over me, like tormenting me. And then I open them and I'd be in my room and I see like my posters and stuff like that, and it would just be shadows. And I close them again, and I'd see like the flames and whatever else, like the
nuts.
yes, dude. And I saw their demon faces. I was like, this is terrifying. Yeah. Cool.
Yes, that I hate that. Yes.
Yo.
We'll throw that up. Picture of
There's a whole
that.
documentary about this, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If
No
you wanna
way.
have this story ruined, watch it, because it's really like they got a bunch of people that shouldn't be on a documentary.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some person that's but no, I've heard that story
Yeah.
countless times.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have two friends that I could name right now that have both come to me with their stories about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
very
creepy.
It's very cool.
It's yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to do a whole episode on shadow people, because I listened to this Art Bell, this old radio, I guess, I don't know, not a podcast, but like,
No, it was like
it's back in like the
Art Bell,
90s.
yeah.
Art Bell, he would just, do
anybody
the
can
talk
call in and
radio.
talk about anything. Yeah.
And he talked about, shadow people, and it was one of the most like scary things I've ever heard.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll have to talk about shadow people
Yeah,
more.
for sure.
All right, so moving on to the next topic over here.
Those coast to coast.
Coast to
That's
coast.
what it was.
that's what
Yeah,
it was,
coast to coast. That's right. Okay, so sticking with the ghost story theme, I've got a story from my Uncle Frank, who I talked to him this past weekend at the powwow, and he's a real cool dude. He's 100% Kiowa, and he's just sounds it. His whole accent, every like all of his demeanor is just like, just complete Plains Indian.
Old school, maybe.
Yeah, old school. Like
yeah.
he'll mix in like Kiowa words with his English, and so you're just gonna have to like, listen and be like, oh, okay, yeah. So it's real cool hearing stories from him, but it's kind of like, almost hard to keep up, especially if you're not Kiowa. Like I can pick up on words here and there and stuff, but he told me this story. It's really interesting, and he was in his early 20s. He's going to college. He was in Denver at this art institute.
Yeah.
And he had this big like final project that was going to be due at the end of the semester. And this final project, he had to like draw, like I think it was ink on paper, a certain object that he got to choose in 4 different styles. And so he used to ride horses a lot when he was kids. When him and his like siblings were kids and stuff like that, and they'd play, cowboys and Indians on actual horseback, like riding bareback. It's like, man, this guy is like for real, like native, like just ride horses around, like with his like as kids. It's like, man, that's freaking cool, like pushing each other off horses and stuff. So the horse is a very, a personal thing for him. So he chose the horse, and him and his roommate were like big, like partiers, and so they would like drink, and they would do all the drugs, weed, they do LSD, acid, like all that fun stuff. I've never done that before, but I'm sure it's real fun. And so he kind of procrastinated towards the end of that, like the semester, and towards the end he was like, oh crap, I really need to get working on this. And so one thing that he would do to focus is he would go on walks either like late at night or in the middle of the night or early in the morning. And so he's in the middle of Denver, like the middle of the city, and so he goes on this walk, and on this middle of this trail, this sidewalk, is this owl perched in the middle of the sidewalk.
Nope.
And for the listeners, to understand like what an owl means, they can mean like 2 different things. It could be a messenger, a harbinger of death, where it's just telling you like, hey, a family member is going to die soon or has died. Or they could be like a trickster. They could be playing with you. They could be messing with you. And Orrin, actually, if you want to read that article and kind of explain a little bit more about owls, that would be great.
Let's see. This says, let's see. 7 Scariest Creatures from Native American Folklore, written by Natasha Ishak. It's published a couple years ago. But about owls. Owls hold significant meaning in Native American cultures, and many tribes have their own myths related to these mysterious nocturnal birds. The Yakima, who live at the border between what is now Washington and Oregon states, say that the Tataklea were giant owl witches who once roamed the plains at night looking for people to devour, and they most enjoyed feasting on children and could mimic the languages of the tribes to lure victims. That's very common among a lot of different Native American tribes.
Yeah.
The owl, let's see, I can find that. They're usually like either a shape-shifting being, or they're just like steal children or hunt men or whatever. Like the Seminole, they believe in the Stikini, which are owl beasts that could shift between animal and human form. And it is believed that their shape-shifting abilities come from vomiting out their own souls, blood, and internal organs, which they hang up high in the treetops so they cannot be reached by any man or animal. And Stikini is kind of like, you can compare it to the skinwalkers that the Dene believe in, or like many like southwestern tribes believe in, or like the Wendigo, which is the northern tribes, they believe in that. But yeah, owls either are, like you said, either they're, you know, omens, like dangerous omens, or they're just messengers.
Yeah.
So either you know, it ranges between different tribes.
Yeah, and so back to my Uncle Frank's story. He saw that owl, and he could tell that this wasn't like a trickster, or like this owl wasn't messing with him. So he immediately knew what happened, and that somebody was about to die. And so he went back home, and he knew that if he didn't finish this art project, that he was going to fail the class. And so he started drawing this horse in the 4 different styles, which was like realism, abstract, surrealism, and whatever else. I don't really know much about art per se, but like he's definitely a talented artist. And so he does this horse, and he gives it to his roommate to submit it. And a police officer shows up at their door, which is strange because he's like, what's going on? And he's like, hey, I need you to call home immediately. There's an emergency. And so he calls back to Oklahoma, and his brother picks up, and his brother's like, hey, grandma died. I need you to come home right now. And he had a feeling that his grandma was the one who died. He can just kind of sense it.
Yeah.
But he still had to make sure that he finished his project and all of that stuff. And so he gave it to his roommate, and he goes back home. And on his way down, so he gets there. His dad picks him up from the airport. Is what happened. And when they're in the car, his dad is like, yeah, she died in her hospital room, and she didn't speak English at all, so she only spoke Kiowa. And on her deathbed, she said something in Kiowa, and his dad translated it into saying, like, there it is, it's the white horse, it's come to take me home. Yeah, and his art project was a white horse.
White horse.
Of course. I know. Real freaky. Yep. Real spooky stuff.
That is spooky.
I mean, it's like still like a kind of like a pretty sentiment, like he's connected to his family and stuff like that. And it's cool to hear a story about an owl that's not
like a monster.
That's not there to eat him or kill him or whatever. Like it was just like there to give him a message, like, hey, like somebody's gonna die.
Yeah,
it is what it is. And Kiowas, we have lots of stories about owls. Like my dad has a handful of stories that are that'll make your skin crawl.
Mm.
We can do a whole episode on Stiginies and owls and all this other stuff, because the Comanches, they have stories about like a giant owl, like a man-eating owl, who comes and steals kids and stuff like that, and that's real. Ugh.
Yeah.
I mean, similar to Stigini, I guess.
Yeah.
But the Kiowas, we just believe in owls being like either like a bad omen, or if they do show up, then they're there to mess with you, or give you like curse you or something like that.
Yeah.
But so Orrin and I actually had an owl encounter when we were camping a couple years ago.
Oh man, that's frightening. I hate that.
So we were we were camping down at my family land, Cat Springs, and in the middle of the night, like we hear this. We're sleeping in the same tent, and in the middle of the night, we hear like an owl up in the distance, and we both of our eyes like shot open. We're like, oh shoot, we know this is not a good sign. But sometimes it's just an owl, it's not anything bad. And we're trying to get to sleep, and then we hear whoo hoo a little closer. We're like, oh no! It's okay. And then we hear whoo hoo, and we can hear it like right above us. And I was like, oh god, what are you doing? And then I hear another owl, and that they're like communicating. Real freaky.
No, I heard that, and I heard them like both of them like right above us, like screams. Like it wasn't like hoots. It was like borderline like screaming at each other.
Well, I remember after that. Then I remember it sounded like somebody was like walking around our tent, which is real freaky. And I remember hearing who are they? No, that last part was a joke. But for real, all the other stuff happened. It sounded like somebody's walking behind our tent. Real spooky. Man, the woods are a dangerous place, man. They're spooky for sure, especially on Indian land, man, because you never know what kind of creatures and spirits are out there for sure. Okay, so that was a good second story. Where are we at with time? How long are we doing? 27 minutes. So I've got a couple more stories. And there is a common theme with, I guess, like natives and stuff. That, do you have any stories about like haunted roads or anything like that?
Not really, no.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything. Nobody's told me anything.
Okay, so here in Oklahoma, down in the southwest part, there's this haunted road called Indian Road, and it goes from Carnegie to Fort Cobb, I believe.
Okay.
And it's in Kiowa country, and on this haunted road, lots of Indians have been like killed there, like hitchhiking. People will just like go off the road and straight up just murder them, like, hit them with their cars, and then drive off. And also like tons of like drunk driving accidents have happened. Just like people driving by themselves, like no other cars, they'll just like be found dead. It's like crashed in a ditch or something like that. And so like there's like the spirit of death on this road, and some Indians will straight up just avoid this road completely and go like an hour out of the way to get to the other town that they need to get to. So on Indian Road, my dad has this really crazy story, and I'd love for him to tell it, but I'm just going to go ahead and give you like a little rundown of it right now. When he was in his 20s, he was real gung-ho about Christianity. Yeah. And he was actually... We lived in East Texas, and he was like full-time like missionary, like serving Jesus and all that stuff. Yeah. And he felt a real calling to go back home, and I want you to pray over this road, this haunted road, and cast out all the demons and stuff like that. And so he feels this real strong calling, and him and one of his other church guys, just this white guy, they go to they hop in the car and they drive 7 hours, and they go all the way to Carnegie, Oklahoma, to go to Indian Road. And they get there in the middle of the night, and Dad says, this is where I need to go, right here. And so they stop, and my dad gets out of the car, and he looks back in the car, and he's like, I need you to stay in the car. Whatever you do, don't look at anything. Wait till I come back. because I don't know what you're gonna see, but also please don't leave me. Okay, so he tells the white guy. I don't remember his name. I don't think it's really that important. But he says, please, just like, don't leave me. I'm going to walk out. I'm going to pray. I'm going to do what the Lord's telling me to do.
Yeah.
And then we'll come back and we'll go right back home. So my dad, feeling like real strong on the Lord, feeling that Holy Spirit just flowing through his veins, he steps out of the car and starts hoofing it down this gravel road. I don't think it's gravel anymore, but in my head it's gravel.
Wait, so did they go out at night and do this?
They went out at night, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Oh yeah, they got there in like, I don't know, like midnight or something like that. They got there like right when like the the spookiest time of the day is.
Yeah.
And so he starts hoofing it out in the middle of the road, and he feels like he okay. So the headlights are on him as he's walking out to the middle of the road. And he says he hears God say, "Stop! This is where I need you to stop." And so he stops, and he like kneels down and he starts praying. He's got his hand on the Bible. He's doing the whole thing, and he's praying for this road to eliminate all the spirits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And out of his, I can't say peripheral vision, I guess, because his eyes were closed.
Yeah.
But he could hear on each side of the road there was just like fields and then like fences. So you can kind of imagine this in your head.
Yeah.
And he hears like somebody walking along the fence line, and he hears this gate open as he's praying in the middle of the night. And the eyes are closed because he hears the Holy Spirit like, "Don't open your eyes. Whatever you do, don't open your eyes. Just trust me." And so he hears somebody walking in the grass. You hear, and so you hear the gate open. He's like, okay, I'm not gonna freak out. Just keep praying. So he keeps praying, and so then he hears, and somebody stepping onto the road, so you can hear him like stepping onto the concrete. And he's like, oh God, please help. So he's praying. He's freaking out, and he hears somebody step up right behind him, and so he's like, oh God, please, oh please God, and so he's praying. He's praying, the Holy Spirit. And he hears somebody like whispering in his ear, but it's like only in like Kiowa or whatever like native language it was. And he just felt this terrible feeling. And then he kept praying and he kept praying, and eventually it went away. But before that, he started hearing like drums in the distance, and that's a thing too with natives, is that you'll hear phantom drums. So you'll like think that there's like a powwow in the distance or something like that, but you'll just hear like the doon 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 doon. But there's like no button. There's no powwow around. So that also symbolizes that like they're spirits or like evil or whatever, So he hears the drums and he hears someone speaking in Kiowa in his ear, and eventually the thing like gives up and he's steadfast like with the Lord. He's got the Holy Spirit and stuff like that. And the thing like gives up, and you hear it like walk back, and then back on the grass, and then you hear the gate close again, and the person just kind of walk out into the field, and he literally like feels the presence like gone, like all the weight off his shoulders, just like. And so he stands up, and he walks back to the car, and the white guy that's in the car is just like white knuckling the steering wheel, like his eyes are just like just wide open, like he had just seen a ghost, because he had seen a ghost. And my dad didn't ask him what he saw, anything like that. He's like, all right, time to go home. And so they start driving. They drive the 7 hours through the night back to East Texas. And he said he never saw that white guy again. I don't know if that's true or not, but I wouldn't be surprised, because like, I mean, just imagine like having no idea about native culture.
You just see that's your first thing.
You see like, whatever he saw, as the first like paranormal thing in his life. I can imagine that it's freaking terrifying. So that's Indian Road.
Spooky.
All right. So moving on to the last thing.
Okay.
Moving on to the last thing. Did you know that there are Indian clown stories?
No.
You shouldn't be surprised, because I mean, Indians believe in all sorts of supernatural things, but of course they believe in like clown ghosts or spirits or whatever, because why wouldn't they? But this past weekend, I was talking to my Uncle Frank. I was like, I just want to hear some good stories. Tell me some stories. And he's like, oh, you hear about the clown that's been seen around this area? And I was like, no. Why would I hear about a clown? Which is terrifying, because clowns are, one of my biggest fears, for sure, thanks to Pennywise. Watching the It movie in the 90s when I was like, 7, and, having night terrors because of it. I'm sure you can relate in some way to different movies like that.
Oh, yeah.
But, okay, so he's telling me, he's like, so back in the Great Depression, the 1930s, there was this carnival that would come through on train, and they would stop, every couple of hours on this train, and they would set up this carnival in these small towns, and they do the whole thing. And there was this clown that he would get, what my Uncle Frank called A-da, which means drunk in Kiowa. So he'd get A-da, and all of, everybody hated him. All of the guests to the carnival, but specifically his, coworkers, because they couldn't stand him. He was a belligerent.
He was a clown.
He was just a clown in general. But, so everybody hated this guy.
Yeah.
And this is towards the end of the year, back in the 1930s in southwestern Oklahoma. And so they're getting ready to leave that next morning, and this clown is passed out. He's drunk. He's just can't be woken up. And so they're fed up with him. And so they just up and leave the guy. And so they leave him, and he's still in his clown outfit, makeup, all that stuff. He's got his whiskey bottles all around him and stuff like that. And they just leave the guy.
With 3 X's on it.
Yeah, with the 3 X's on it. Yes. Yep. And so he wakes up, and he's like, where am I?
Yeah.
And sees that, everybody's gone. He's got that John Travolta meme. He's like, looking around, like, where's everybody? And so he starts walking around town looking for anybody to help, and everybody's freaked out because he's this clown, but also they know that he sucks as well. And so they're like, we're not trying to help you, guy. My guy, we're not trying to help you. And so he walks around, and he starts getting sick because he fell asleep, and his clothes were wet, and so he got pneumonia. And so he starts hitchhiking along this highway, and he's walking around the highway, and he sticks his thumb up as he's walking down, and nobody's picking him up. They're just going all the way around him. And the poor guy just he walked for miles and miles, really sick. And he stumbled upon this farm and found this barn and just curled up and died. Just imagine finding this dead clown in your farm.
I don't know where
my worst nightmare, man. He's all curled up. That'd be scary. That'd be super scary. Okay, so after that, apparently people started seeing this spirit, this ghost of a clown, and on Indian Road. Apparently at night, sometimes people will be driving, and they'll see a clown hitchhiking, and they'll see a clown just with his thumb sticking out, and they'll swerve around the guy, and in another mile they'll see the same clown come out, and they'll go around him. They'll again another mile they'll see him just hanging out with his thumb out, smiling at them and stuff. And what they say, I know how terrifying is that? And they say if you do see the clown, to not look in your rear view mirror because he'll be in your back seat.
No.
Yes.
Gross.
Chills, man.
Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like that. Apparently, even still to this day, these farmers will be out tending to their fields, and they'll see a clown out in the distance, doing somersaults and cartwheels and stuff like that, doing tricks and trying to get their attention, and he'll wave and smile at them, and he'll just vanish. Yes, dude.
No.
How freaking weird is that?
No.
And so, that sounds super, far-fetched or whatever. Okay, so how many people has this story been told to? Well, I Googled it, and sure enough, I found information on it.
Okay. So I learned something today from my girlfriend. So you've seen the movie Terrifier about the clown?
I haven't seen it yet. No. I know about it.
I've heard that's based on a clown who supposedly killed like 2 kids, and then based in Oklahoma.
What?
So I don't know if that's the same thing you're about to read, but like, I don't know.
Yo,
I haven't like corroborated this evidence or like read anything about it, but it's just weird the coincidence that you're telling this story.
I guess we'll have to do a whole episode on clowns then.
I guess so.
Talk about John Wayne Gacy and Pennywise.
Yeah.
All right, so I did my research.
Okay.
And I found this story on this article from IndianCountryToday.com. And it says, they say a traveling circus came to our area of Caddo County, Oklahoma in the early 1900s. This was before trucks were easily available, so the circus group traveled in wagons and camped outside of town. After their performance, the circus group camped a few miles out east of the town beside the river. That's where the death occurred. No one is sure what happened. All they know is that the clown drowned in the river right there in the woods by Indian Road. Yeah, they say the clown is still there in the woods. Some people have seen him. My buddy's uncle said he was walking in that area with some friends around dusk. They weren't paying too much attention to their surroundings as they were visiting and laughing while strolling on their way. Something in the woods caught their attention. Maybe a movement, a noise. No one can say what it was, but they all looked in the same direction. What they saw was the clown. He was waving and smiling at them.
Nope.
It said that's what he does. He steps out from behind a tree, smiles, waves, steps back behind the tree so you don't see him for very long. But you know he's somewhere in the woods.
Ugh, that sucks. That sucks.
Another relative said he saw the clown, but he wasn't in the trees. The relative was driving to check one of his old home places in the area. The old home places are old family homes that no one lives in anymore, but every now and then someone will go out and check on them or temporarily move in case they need a place to live.
Yeah.
As the relative and his passengers drove along the dirt road driveway at dusk, they noticed a figure standing on the porch. They were puzzled because there was no car parked anywhere in front of the old home. Getting closer, the driver slammed on the brakes. When he could clearly see the figure, it was the clown standing in front of the old home. The clown waved at the drivers and passengers, smiled, turned around, and walked back into the house.
No. Oh, Clown
chills,
suck.
man. So yeah, that one's a little different, like the history, I guess, the lore, I guess, rather.
Yeah.
Behind the clown. I want to choose to believe that he was drunk, because that makes it a little more believable.
Like a dude in clown makeup just drown.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. So maybe he was drunk and then drowned. Yeah. So maybe it was a little both.
Yeah.
But
I mean, because of the story you said, he woke up and he was wet.
So, yeah. Oh, see, that makes sense. Yeah. So maybe he fell into the river and and then he died of pneumonia. That makes a lot of sense for sure. Not even the last clown story of the area. So before I even heard this story and then read that one, a couple of weeks ago, my cousin told me a story from his mom. And in that same area between Carnegie and Apache, Oklahoma, there's this house near Camp George. It's like a Boy Scout camp.
Okay.
And this whole area is like a hub for the supernatural and paranormal and all this other stuff. I personally have a UFO experience that is so strange from that area, and we'll dive into it on our UFO episode.
Okay, all right.
But very strange experience and whatever. But so they lived in this rent house over there by the Boy Scout camp, and they didn't live there very long, but there was this story, and apparently the people who rented it before, they all said the same thing, that they'd be walking around the house, and out of the corner of their eye, they'd see a little clown just like walk from room to room, but they'd look at it and it'd be gone. So just imagine seeing like a little clown out of the
mean, like,
peripheral.
little, like-
It was like little, like I don't know, I don't know how little, but you know,
Okay.
like probably like 3-4 feet.
Okay.
I know.
Oh.
But you just walk from room to room. Just I don't know if he's messing with you or playing with you or
Yeah.
what, but like they only see him out of the corner of their eye, and when they look at him, he'd be gone. But very like eerie experience. So they end up moving out of that house, and I can imagine why.
Yeah.
And the people who bought it next, they were renovating it. They were gonna, you know, turn it into a better rent house or whatever. And apparently, the contractors that were working, they were like renovating and stuff like that. They ended up quitting one day and just leaving because they just refused to work in there anymore. And apparently, like one day, they walked in, and on the countertop of like the kitchen, they see this little clown just sitting on it,
No.
just doing this, and
No.
he waves at him,
No.
and then disappears, like with his feet dangling and stuff like that, and he just vanishes. And they're like, "We're not working here anymore."
Suck, dude.
Dude, I
Clowns.
know.
Ugh.
Like, why do we gotta have clown stories in our in native stories too, man? I don't even know.
Ugh.
But yeah, that's enough for me. That's gonna do it for episode 1, Indian ghost
I am
stories.
thoroughly.
We'll have to do another
spooked.
episode. I got more stories, but we'll
Okay.
save them for later.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
I am spooked, like frightened. All the clown stuff. I'm like, nope. Clowns are just terrifying.
Yeah, and imagine it being like a clown ghost.
Yeah, that's
You know,
the
but all
worst.
like in the woods and stuff like that too,
Yeah.
dude. Oh man, actually, there's more. There's one more story that goes along with that hitchhiking clown.
Okay.
And Uncle Frank knows this woman personally, and she was driving along one of those highways, and he was telling me exactly where it was, but I'm not really super familiar with the area. But he was like, "Yeah, you know that road by the cemetery and the church?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, sure."
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. So her and her like baby, they were driving along. They were driving along that road at night, and she sees the clown, and it's waving at her and hitchhiking, and she ignores it. And she goes around and she sees it again, and she starts freaking out. So she ends up turning down one of those gravel roads, and she sees it again, but she's going like super slow, giving it just enough time to like jump on her car. And she said she could hear it like dancing on top of her car. And she starts driving real fast, and then eventually it just stops.
Stop. Thank you.
Indian ghost stories.
Thank you for tuning in, listening.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
We hope to keep doing this. This is fun, and then next episode we're gonna talk about
That's something else. What are we gonna talk about, Orrin?
what are we gonna talk
What
about?
are we going to talk
What are
about? We
gonna
didn't
talk
discuss
about?
this. Actually, we're going to discuss Bigfoot in the next
Bigfoot.
episode.
All right,
Yeah, we
yeah.
got some Bigfoot stories. I personally, no, I guess not personally, but I've heard some stories
Okay.
from firsthand accounts of Bigfoot stories.
Gotcha.
So
All right.
I would love to share them and some Bigfoot lore and our culture.
And maybe even some recent Bigfoot
There
news.
you go. Recent
So,
Bigfoot news. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So stay tuned. Thanks for joining us. This has
Yeah,
been
thank
episode
you.
1 of Suspend Disbelief.